Alright, today's lesson we're going to look at histograms and other things that have to do with distributions. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a histogram here with these numbers, found percentages for last year's final exam. And basically, when you do a histogram, you're going to do in between 60 and then everything has to be the same length. So let's just do 5. So if the score is in between 60 and 65, and we'll include 60 but not 65. So in other words, the boundary does not include the upper end number. So we got 70. Now in this we have basically a few different ones. So here's 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, and 95. So in between 60 and these were the scores. Remember to always label your axes. Number of scores. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so in between 60 and 65 there are 1. In between 65 and 70 there is 1. In between 70 and 75 there is still just 1, because 75 goes into this group that I skipped over here, the 75, and x is less than 80. So 75 and 76 and 78 and 79 all go in here under 4. 81 and 82 and 84 go together at 3. 88 and 89, 72, and there's 1. And so that's our histogram. You notice, unlike the bar graph, there is no gaps between our bars. That doesn't mean there can't be gaps, because we're going to show you one in a second. But for right now, there's no gaps. Alright, we'll talk about a few things before we go on to another example. Because whenever we're talking about distribution, and this is what we have in distribution, we need 3 things. We need to figure out what the center, the shape, and the spread. Now here, if I took a look here, the center is somewhere around here. Maybe 80, maybe 79. So we're not going to get an exact answer. We're not necessarily going to, in a histogram, say it's definitely going to be. We're going to use our fuzzy words. So we're going to say that it's 80. And we probably, if when we're writing this out in sentences, say it's about 80. Now the shape, and we'll talk about other shapes in a minute. This shape happens to be symmetric. And the spread here goes from about 95. We can figure it out to be the spread, the range to be about, well, we know it is exactly 32. Or if we didn't have the numbers, we could say it's about 35, since we don't really know when looking at the histogram what the lowest number is and what the highest number is. However, in this particular case, since we had the numbers, we could say the range is 32, because 92 minus 60 is 32. Or we could take a look at the graph and say it's about 35, because the range goes from about 60 to about 95. Alright, we're going to take a brief time out to talk about the main 3 shapes we talk about in statistics. There's other shapes, but the big 3 are symmetric. Well, this one if I sort of try to draw a curve, it kind of looks the same on each side. You know, you fold it over and it's about the same. Nothing ever in statistics is perfect, so we would say this is approximately symmetric. Alright, the second shape, if I have a histogram that looks like this, where it kind of goes up and then it tails off to the right, this is called skewed right. Anytime the tail is off in a direction, that is the way that it is skewed. And finally, if we have something that looks like this, we have something that is skewed to the left. Now let's take a look at this. If we include, I had one student show up who got a 0. And so, just for the sake of time, we're going to have what I drew on the last one. Alright, there was my original graph. And so, looking at this young man is what we refer to as an outlier. A number that's far away from the other numbers and basically doesn't fit in with everything else. Now, the reason why we have this outlier is because the person didn't show up for the final exam for whatever reason. And so, but we should probably include that data. We should include all of the data whenever possible, and if we have an outlier, we should try to figure out if there's a reason for the outlier, or if, you know, we need more information, more data. So, anything that's far away, and how far away? We'll talk about specifically a formula to find outliers later, but for right now, if you see something far away from the rest of everything in a graph, we're going to call that an outlier. Alright, two other shapes before we end this one up. You see here how we have this shape where it kind of has two places where we have kind of hit a high. This is called bimodal. When you have one, it's unimodal. This one is bimodal. Mode is where the most frequent things occur. This one is bimodal. And this one, where everything is about the same, is referred to as uniform.